The capture in the dark asterisk Varela ran through the thick jungle, her breath sharp and ragged. Her blue skin was scratched and bleeding. Her legs trembled with every step. Behind her, the shadows moved. Strange sounds echoed in the dark trees. She had no idea where she was. All she knew was that her ship had crashed on a wild moon, and someone was following her. Her kind had always spoken of humans in whispers. Creatures of war, flesh-eaters, monsters in skin. Varela had never seen one. She had only heard stories, horrible stories. And now, for the first time in her life, she hoped they were lies. Lightning flashed above the jungle. A storm was coming. But worse than the storm was the figure she saw moving between the trees. Tall, heavy footsteps. Eyes that glowed faintly in the dark. Human. She turned and ran faster, stumbling over roots and vines. Her breathing grew faster, but her body couldn't keep up. Her vision blurred, and then she fell. A sharp pain hit her side as she crashed against a rock. She tried to stand, but her body gave up. Everything turned black. When Varela opened her eyes, everything was warm. She gasped and sat up, expecting chains, knives, death. But what she saw confused her. She was inside a cave. A small fire burned quietly in the corner. Outside, the rain poured down heavily. A jacket, human-made, covered her like a blanket. Her arm was bandaged. She looked around quickly. A human sat near the fire, his back toward her. He was tall and broad, wearing rough clothes. His hair was short, and a small scar ran down his cheek. He was holding something over the fire, cooking it. Varela froze. He's preparing to eat me, she thought. He caught me like prey, and now he's cooking my meat. Her heart raced. He turned his head slightly. She held her breath. You're awake, he said, his voice calm and strange. His language was different, but his tone was not cruel. She didn't reply. She only stared, ready to scream or fight if he got closer. The human picked up something, a small piece of cooked meat, and placed it on a flat metal plate. Then, slowly, he slid the plate toward her. Varela looked at it, then at him. She shook her head. He picked up another piece and ate it himself, chewing slowly. Poison? She wondered. But he kept chewing. Then he wiped his hands and pushed the rest toward her again. Still, she didn't move. She didn't trust him. How could she? Every warning from her people screamed in her mind. Don't trust the human. They pretend. Then they destroy. She moved backward, away from him. I'm not going to hurt you, he said again. Then he pointed to himself, tapped his chest and said, Jack. Varela didn't speak. She had a translator chip, but it was damaged in the crash. His words sounded rough and broken to her ears. Jack smiled softly, not the smile of a hunter, but something gentler. He pointed to her and raised his eyebrows, asking for her name. She hesitated. Then slowly she whispered, Varela. He nodded. Varela, he repeated carefully. Suddenly, a deep howl echoed from outside the cave. Something big was moving through the jungle. Varela jumped and pressed herself against the cave wall, terrified. Jack stood and grabbed a strange weapon from his bag. He walked to the cave's entrance and stood there like a guard. He didn't run. He didn't hide. He protected her. The howl faded. Jack turned back to her and sat down near the fire again. He didn't say a word. He just handed her a small water bottle. She took it, shaking, and drank. For the first time, Varela wasn't sure anymore. This human didn't look like a killer. This human saved her. And still, fear sat deep in her bones. What if it was a trick? What if he was waiting until she trusted him? Then he would do what the story said. Cut her open, eat her heart, burn her soul. But another voice whispered in her mind, quieter, softer. What if the stories were wrong? She lay back down, unsure what to believe. The fire crackled softly. Rain still fell outside. And inside that quiet cave, an alien girl watched a human, not as a monster, but as a mystery. A mystery that had not eaten her ... yet. Virela woke up to the smell of cooked food again. The fire was still burning. The human Jack was already up, crouched near the fire, boiling water in a small silver pot. His back was straight, movements slow, calm, controlled. Not like a predator, she kept still. Watched him carefully. He didn't look at her. He just worked silently, as if she wasn't there. As if he wasn't keeping a dangerous alien close to him in the middle of an unknown jungle moon. Virela felt her stomach twist. Hunger. She hadn't eaten in almost 2 days. Her eyes moved to the plate near the fire. Freshly cooked meat again. Soft roots on the side, and some kind of bread. The same meal as last night. Last night, she didn't eat. She thought it was a trap. But today ... Her body begged her. Jack finally turned. His expression was tired but calm. He looked at the plate, then back at her, and slowly pushed it forward again. Virela didn't move. He picked up a chunk of meat, bit into it without hesitation, then placed the rest gently back on the plate. Virela's hands trembled. Her kind didn't eat meat often. But right now, meat or not, it was survival. She reached out slowly. Jack didn't react. She grabbed the plate and took a small bite. She expected a bitter taste. Instead, it was warm, slightly salty, and surprisingly good. She chewed carefully, watching Jack the whole time. When she coughed from the dry bread, Jack quickly moved closer, but not too close, and offered her a small canister of water. His eyes were focused, full of concern, not threat. She took the water, drinking fast. Some spilled down her chin. Slow, Jack said gently, motioning with his hand. Virela nodded, unsure why his voice didn't scare her anymore. They sat there, both silent. The only sounds were the crackling fire and rain outside. The jungle around them had calmed for now. Virela finally asked, "Why? You help?" Her voice was rough, broken. She didn't know if he understood. Jack tilted his head. He didn't answer at first. Then, he picked up a small metal stick from his pack and started drawing shapes in the dirt. A circle. A smaller dot inside. Lines around it. A symbol. A world. Then, he pointed to himself. "Earth," he said. Then he pointed to her. "Not enemy," he added slowly, tapping his chest. "Safe." Virela stared at the symbols. She didn't know what Earth was, but she understood one thing. He was trying to tell her she was not in danger. Still, she didn't trust it fully. Humans. "Eat," she said carefully, putting her hand near her mouth and pretending to bite. Jack frowned. "No," he said firmly. Then he shook his head, repeating, "No." Virela stared at him. Could it be true? Had her people lied? She moved closer to the fire, watching him draw more pictures. A ship, stars. Then, a family, a small figure. A child. He pointed at the child and said softly, "Daughter." She felt a small shock in her chest. He had a daughter? Was he a father? She looked at his face again. The scar, the eyes, not cold like killers, tired eyes. Sad eyes, maybe, lonely eyes. Jack stood and stretched his back. Then he went outside for a moment. Virela heard the sounds of him cutting something with a blade. He returned with fresh fruit, some wild orange-colored berries she didn't recognize. He tossed one to her gently. She caught it out of reflex. He smiled. For a second, she smiled too. Just a little, but her smile faded fast. What if he was still playing a long trick? She looked down at the fruit in her hand. If he had wanted to kill her, he could have done it already. She bit into the fruit. It was sweet. She didn't realize she had closed her eyes until she heard Jack chuckle softly. Virela opened them fast, alert again. He held up his hands. Okay, he said with a shrug. She stared for a second, then laughed quietly, a sound she hadn't made since before the crash. For a moment, the cave didn't feel like a prison. It felt like shelter. The silence that followed wasn't heavy anymore. It was peaceful. That night, as the rain continued to fall, Varela curled up near the fire. She glanced at Jack, who had placed himself near the entrance again, guarding her. Without a word. He didn't ask for thanks. He didn't ask for trust. But he had both, at least. A little, she whispered under her breath. Jack, maybe you not monster. And for the first time since her ship crashed, she didn't dream of death. She dreamed of stars. And a strange, quiet human who gave her food instead of fear. Varela sat by the cave wall, holding a smooth stone in her hand. She wasn't sure why she kept it. Maybe because it felt safe, or maybe because it reminded her of something solid in a strange world. Across the fire, Jack was fiddling with a broken device. Wires sparked softly in his hands, glowing blue and red. They had shared food, water, silence, but still, they couldn't truly talk. Varela could say a few words. Jack could guess a few things. But they were trapped in different languages, like two people staring at each other through thick glass. She watched him now. He looked focused, his brow tight as he worked. His fingers moved like he had done this hundreds of times before. She wondered if he was building something or repairing something important. She decided to speak. You fix? Jack glanced up, surprised, then nodded once. Yeah, fixing. Varela tilted her head. She tapped her translator chip near her neck and shook her head. Jack understood. He reached for something in his bag and pulled out a small notepad. He drew a quick sketch, a stick figure with antennae and an X over the mouth. Then he drew himself with a question mark. Varela laughed. It was strange, seeing herself drawn like a little cartoon. But the meaning was clear. No speak earth words, she said, slow. Jack smiled. I noticed, he joked. She didn't understand the joke, but his tone was light. Then Jack drew something new, 2 circles. One with her name, Varela, and the other, Jack. He connected them with a thin line, and at the center, drew a small symbol, a fire. She stared. It was simple, but beautiful. It meant something. We're different, but we share this fire. Varela touched the drawing gently. She nodded. Then she picked up the charcoal and started drawing her own lines, stars, a ship, then a crash. Jack watched carefully. She pointed at the broken ship and herself. Mine. Jack nodded, then pointed to her leg. Crash? Yes, she said. Ship, break. I fall. Then she drew dark shapes behind the ship, small, sharp teeth. She pointed at them, then made a biting motion. Jack leaned closer. Chasers? He asked. She nodded quickly. Hunters. They take me. I run. His eyes hardened. He understood now. She was not just a random alien in the jungle. She had escaped something cruel. Jack drew something else now. A hand, reaching out. Helping. He tapped the page, then looked at her. She froze. Then slowly, she reached out and tapped the same hand. Later that day, Jack walked outside to collect rainwater in a metal bowl. Varela followed, but stayed close to the cave. The sky had cleared a little, revealing a strange yellow sun above the trees. She had never seen a sun like this. As she looked up, Jack handed her a small fruit. She took it, but paused. Then she asked something new. You not scared me? Jack smiled gently. No, not scared. She pointed at herself. Alien, he nodded. Different. Not scary. Then he pointed up at the stars. Big sky, he said. Many kinds, she repeated slowly. Many kinds. That sentence stayed in her mind the rest of the day. Many kinds. She had been taught that her people were special, and that others were enemies. But Jack didn't treat her like an enemy. He didn't even ask who she was or what she believed. He just gave her food, shelter, safety. When night returned, she sat closer to the fire this time. Jack didn't draw. He simply rested with his back to the wall, watching the entrance. His weapon in reach, he was still alert, still protective. She stared at his face, trying to understand. Was he a soldier? A lost explorer? A father who had once protected others? Then she remembered the drawing. The little figure he had called daughter. He had left someone behind, just like her. She pulled her blanket tighter and whispered, more to herself than him, "Thank you." Jack, he looked over, but didn't speak. He just nodded. And for the first time, the silence between them didn't feel like a wall. It felt like trust. Asterisk thunder rolled over the jungle like a deep growl from the sky. The rain had returned, harder, louder. It slammed against the rocks outside the cave. Inside, the fire flickered and cracked, throwing long shadows against the damp walls. Varela sat closer to the flame tonight, wrapped in the human's thick gray jacket. Her eyes followed the shadows. Every time one moved, her shoulders tensed. Her legs were healing, but not her fear. Jack tossed more wood onto the fire. Sparks jumped up. He had sealed the cave entrance with a flat piece of metal and thick vines. Still, she could hear the jungle breathing outside, animals growling, trees creaking, something howling in the distance. The storm was alive. Varela hugged her knees and whispered, "Too loud." Jack looked over. "You okay?" She nodded. But it was a lie. Her heart was racing. The last time she had heard a storm like this, she had been in a cage. A flash of lightning lit up the cave. The thunder that followed hit her like a weapon. She flinched, gasping. Her eyes went wide. Jack stood. "Varela?" She backed away fast, until her back hit the wall. Her breathing turned sharp, fast, like she was choking on her own air. She wasn't in the cave anymore. She was back in the prison ship. The walls were metal. The lights were red. The voices of her captors echoed in her head. "Obey. Don't speak. Don't look them in the eye." Another flash. She screamed. Jack rushed to her but stopped halfway. He raised his hand slowly, showing he meant no harm. "It's okay," he said gently. "It's just the storm." She didn't understand his words, not fully, but she saw something in his face, worry, not anger. He wasn't shouting. He wasn't holding a weapon. He was just there. She shook her head, trying to pull herself back. Her whole body was shaking. Jack knelt and waited. Then, slowly, she reached for the drawing stick and pulled the notebook toward her. With trembling hands, she drew something, two shapes, a small cage, a stick figure inside it. She looked at him, eyes full of pain. "Me," she said. Jack's jaw tightened. He sat down slowly, across from her. Then he drew something next to the cage, a hand reaching in, breaking the bars. He pointed to it. "Me." She stared at the picture. A memory surfaced, the day she escaped. The ship had crashed during transfer. The guards died. She had run through the trees, bleeding. She had expected to die. Until Jack found her. Maybe that wasn't a mistake. Maybe it was fate. Varela wiped her eyes. "You help," she said. Jack nodded. The fire cracked louder. Another round of thunder shook the air. She didn't flinch this time. Jack reached into his bag and pulled out something, a small device, old and scratched. He tapped it, and a soft blue light glowed. Then a projection appeared, flickering images of a little girl laughing, playing in a green park, chasing a toy drone. Varela's breath caught. "Daughter," Jack said softly. She watched the tiny human spin and laugh in the air. Her voice was silent, but her joy was clear. Then Jack tapped another image, Earth, blue oceans, white clouds. She had never seen such a planet. Her own world was red and dry. This one looked like a dream. "Home," Jack said. Varela looked up at him. "You lost?" He nodded once. "Long time," she pointed at herself. "Me too." For a long moment, they just sat there. Two lost beings, broken in different ways, sharing fire and memories. Then, without thinking, Varela stood and walked toward the cave entrance. Jack stepped aside, letting her open the curtain of vines. Storm had calmed a little. The sky above was black, but the stars had returned, scattered diamonds across the sky. She stepped into the rain, letting it wash over her face, cold, fresh. She looked back at Jack. "You know, monster," she said. He smiled. "Neither are you." She didn't understand the words exactly, but she understood the feeling, and that was enough. That night, she slept closer to the fire, and Jack didn't have to guard the door anymore. The sun was rising. Pale golden light slipped through the vines at the cave's entrance. A soft mist floated across the jungle, hanging like breath in the trees. Birds chirped somewhere far off. It was the first peaceful morning Varela had seen. In many cycles, Jack sat outside on a large stone, sharpening a knife on a smooth black rock. His movements were slow and steady, focused, calm. Inside, Varela sat by the warm ashes of last night's fire. Her eyes were half closed, but she wasn't sleepy. Her thoughts were heavy, full. She looked down at her hands. They were no longer shaking like before. The wounds had started to close. Her bones ached less. Her fear had started to change, not vanish, but shift. Now she feared something different. What if she never understood why he saved her? Jack returned with a handful of berries and placed them between them. Then, without a word, he pulled something from his backpack, a flat silver cube. It was old, scratched, and covered in dust. He held it gently, like a memory. Varela tilted her head. Jack pressed a button on the side. A beam of light shot up. It formed a glowing image above the cube, blurry at first, then clear. A smiling woman, dark hair, bright eyes. A small child ran into her arms, laughed, hugged her tight. Then the image shifted. Jack stood beside them, smiling. No scars, no dirt, just happy. Varela's breath caught. "Family?" she asked. Jack nodded slowly. "Wife." "Daughter," he said. He let the cube sit between them. "I was a pilot," Jack added, drawing the ship in the dirt. "Cargo missions. Earth to Mars, routine, easy." Then he drew an explosion. A broken ship. Flames. Varela leaned in, eyes wide. "Raiders hit us," he said. "They took the ship. I escaped. They didn't." He didn't say more. He didn't have to. Varela reached out and gently touched the drawing in the dirt. So that scar wasn't from war, it was from loss. Suddenly, she felt small, selfish. She had been so trapped in her fear that she hadn't asked, "Who is this human? What has he survived?" She whispered, "I also taken, same." Jack looked at her, waiting. She breathed in deeply, then spoke, slow, broken, but true. "Was prisoner. Ship. Dark. Cold. No name. No light. They took many from my world, sold us, hurt us." She closed her eyes. Then, crash, escape, I ran. Jack's eyes darkened. "Slavers," she nodded. "They call us tools." "Things," he shook his head. "No, never." There was silence again, but this time, it wasn't sad. It was strong. A bond. Growing. Two survivors. Two stories. One fire. Then Jack picked up the cube again, tapped it, and a map appeared. It floated in the air above them, showing the stars. Blinking dots and thin white paths. "Tracking signal," he said. "Old distress code, activated yesterday." Varela leaned closer. One of the blinking dots was near them. "Ship?" she asked. Jack frowned. "Maybe, or someone looking for you." Her heart stopped for a second. "Hunters?" she whispered. "Possible," he said. He stood up and walked to the cave entrance, staring into the thick jungle. "They don't stop," Varela whispered. "Not unless someone stops them." Jack didn't reply. He stood very still, hand resting on his knife. "I'm not letting them take you," he said softly. She looked up. "You would fight for me?" He nodded. "You're not a prisoner now." She stood, walked to his side, and said the words slowly, carefully, each one heavy like a stone in her chest. "I am someone." Jack turned toward her, surprised by the sentence. She repeated it louder. "I am someone." He smiled. "Yes, you are." And for the first time, Varela didn't feel like a thing in a cage. She felt like a person. That night, the jungle fell silent. Too silent. Zack with his weapon across his lap, eyes sharp. The map cube blinked again. The unknown signal was closer. He didn't say a word. Varela could feel it. Something was coming. Not a storm, something worse. She moved closer to the fire and whispered, "I will fight too, if they come." Jack looked at her. "No," he said. "You've done enough surviving. This time, I protect." The fire snapped. The wind outside stopped. The jungle held its breath, and the real danger began to move in. Asterisk. The jungle was dead quiet. No birds, no wind. Not even insects dared to move. Varela sat still, her eyes locked on the blinking light of the silver map cube. The dot was closer now, too close. Less than 2,000 meters away. Moving fast. Jack didn't speak. He had already checked his weapon 3 times. Not a plasma rifle, not anything fancy. Just a long-barreled slut thrower, loud, simple. Deadly. It only had 4 shots. He laid out traps around the cave entrance. Wire lines, spike pits, old explosives. Clever tricks, built from scrap and instinct. Varela watched him work. His hands moved fast but never shook. This wasn't panic. This was experience. What if they see the fire? She asked quietly. "They already know," Jack said. "They're not here by accident." Her heart dropped. She stood, trembling, and grabbed a sharp bone knife Jack had given her earlier. "No," he said, shaking his head. "You stay inside. I can fight. You already did. You lived. That's more than most." Varela didn't argue. But she didn't drop the knife, either. It began just after moonrise. A small mechanical drone buzzed through the trees. Tiny, black, silent. Jack spotted it and shot it clean from the sky with 1 bullet. That was their signal. A voice called out from the trees, amplified and cold. "Human, you are harboring stolen property. Step aside and you won't be harmed." Jack didn't move. He crouched behind a stone ridge, hidden in darkness. Varela's breath caught. "They mean me." "They see you as property," Jack said, voice flat. "I see you as a person." The jungle lit up with bright beams. 3 bounty hunters walked out of the shadows, armored in black, their visors glowing red. "We're not here for you," one shouted. "Just the girl." Jack stood. Now. They could see him. Dirty, scarred, calm. He raised his gun. "I don't care why you're here," Jack said. "She stays." They laughed. One of them said, "You think you're a hero, human? You're nothing. 1 man against us?" Jack smiled. "I'm not 1 man. I'm a human." Then he fired. The bullet struck the first bounty hunter in the chest, throwing him back into the mud. Before the others could react, one of Jack's traps exploded. A flash mine blinded them, sending sparks into the trees. The second hunter screamed, stumbling into a pit Jack had hidden earlier. Spikes pierced his armor with a sickening crunch. Only one was left, the leader. He ducked and rolled, dodging the chaos, and raised a plasma rifle. Jack was RILOADING. Too slow. The hunter fired. The bolt missed Jack by inches, scorching the ground beside him. Varela screamed from inside the cave. The hunter turned toward her voice and charged. Jack dropped his rifle and pulled a hidden blade from his boot. As the bounty hunter reached the cave, Jack was already moving. Tackled the armored man mid-run. Both crashed to the jungle floor. The hunter struck first. His metal gauntlet hit Jack's face with a brutal crunch. Blood sprayed. Jack grunted, rolled away, then stabbed forward. The blade sank into the gap under the hunter's chin. Where helmet met armor. The hunter froze, then fell. Silence again. The jungle listened. Only Jack's heavy breathing broke the air. Varela ran to him, eyes wide. His face was bloody, his shirt torn. But he was alive. "You're hurt," she said, kneeling beside him. "Yeah," he said, wiping blood from his nose. "But they're worse." She looked at the bodies. 3 men. 3 weapons. 3 monsters. All stopped by one. Human. He had done it. He had saved her again. Later they sat by the fire. Jack's side was wrapped in cloth, his eyes swollen. But he smiled anyway. "I've had worse," he said. "You fought like fire," Varela whispered. He looked at her, confused. She smiled. "Fire does not run. It burns the fear." Jack laughed, even though it hurt. "Fire, huh?" he said. "I like that." Then he grew quiet. "They'll send more," he said. "Maybe not soon. But they always come." Varela nodded. "So, we run?" "No," he said. "We fly." She tilted her head. He pulled out the cube again. This time, he zoomed in on another blinking signal. A ship nearby. Crashed but maybe repairable. Not just any ship. A way out, a way to the stars. He looked at her. "Can you walk?" She stood tall. "Can you fly?" She asked back. Jack grinned. And together, they stepped out of the cave, not as hunter and prey, but as fire and flame. The jungle behind them was still burning. Smoke rose in thin lines like ghosts leaving the ground. 3 bodies lay where they fell, reminders of chains broken, and of a human who didn't run. Jack limped forward, one hand pressed against his ribs. Varela walked beside him, knife strapped to her leg, eyes sharp, heart steady. The wounds on her body had healed. But something deeper had healed too, something she hadn't known was broken. They were headed toward the crash site. Jack had marked on the map cube. It was deep in the jungle, hidden behind thick vines and stone cliffs. But Jack's path was sure. Every step, every turn, like he had walked it in his mind 100 times. Varela didn't speak much. She just kept glancing at him. At the man who bled for her. At the man who stood alone between her and monsters. At the man her people had warned her about, and who had turned out to be the only one who didn't see her as an object. They reached the clearing just after noon. There it was, half buried in moss and vines. Metal hull cracked open, sparks flickering in the sunlight. A ship. Old. Broken, but still alive. Jack whistled low. "Could work," he said. Virele climbed up the side, using roots like a ladder. The hatch groaned as she opened it. Inside was dark and cold, but not dead. She touched the controls. Lights blinked. Power. Jack joined her. Looked around. Comes. Are gone. Wings are shot, but engines, maybe. He opened a floor panel, smiled. Reactors stable. She didn't understand every word, but she understood his face. Hope. They spent the next hours in silence, working together. Jack rewired the controls. Varela reconnected fuel lines. Her people had always seen her as weak, but she knew machines. She'd fixed slave collars and escape pods with less. By sunset, the ship HUMMED. By nightfall, the engines breathed. Inside the cockpit, Jack leaned back in the pilot's chair. Varela stood behind him, hands on the ceiling bar. The stars above were visible through the cracked viewport. "Ready?" Jack asked. Varela didn't answer. Instead, she walked over, knelt beside him, and placed something in his hand. A small charm, carved from bone, shaped like a star. "My people. We give this to the one who saves our life," she said quietly. Jack looked at it, then at her. "I didn't do it for reward." She nodded. "I know." She sat beside him. For a moment, they just breathed. Then she asked, "Where will we go?" "Jack." Shrugged. Anywhere, somewhere with sky, no chains, no cages. She looked out the window. A world where no one owns another. He smiled. You'd like Earth. Varela turned. Will they accept me? Jack's voice was steady. They will, or they'll deal with me. Her eyes shimmered, not with fear this time, but something else. Belief. Not in humans. Not in his words, but in him. He reached for the controls, but she stopped him. One question, she said. He turned to her. Why didn't you eat me? Jack laughed. Then, very gently, he replied, because I saw a person, not prey. She blinked. That answer, so simple, so powerful, made something shake inside her chest. She reached for his hand. He didn't pull away. She whispered, then maybe I'll stop seeing humans as monsters. He squeezed her hand lightly. Good place to start. The engines roared. The jungle shook as the ship lifted. Fire bursting from beneath it. Trees bent. Birds flew. The smoke of violence was left behind. Upward they rose. Through branches, clouds, atmosphere. Into freedom. Varela looked out the window, watching the stars grow brighter. Her reflection stared back, the face of a girl who once feared humans. Now she flew beside one, a friend, a fire, later when Earth's sky welcomed them, and the ship landed in the hidden valleys where Jack once walked as a father. Tales would spread. Tales of a girl with silver eyes, who spoke of cages and stars. Tales of a man with scars who taught her what freedom truly meant. Not in weapons. Not in war, but in kindness. In choice. In seeing someone, really seeing them. And the charm she gave him. He wore it always, not as a trophy, but as proof that sometimes the monsters in the stories were never monsters at all.